If you want to learn how to create chat completions as a developer using OpenAI, or another word, the thing that powers ChatGPT, then this is the video for you. I'm going to be doing exactly that. So in other words, teaching you how to use the API in order to create text completions. By the end of this video, you will learn how to use the OpenAI API in order to get those text completions from a backend and put them out onto your front end. So what are we waiting for? Let's do it. This video is going to be done in Node.js, so please have a go at following along, and then you could try any of the other languages if you wish. Okay, so first off, we're going to do chat completions. So head over to OpenAI, and under the API, just go ahead and click on Docs. This is essentially where all the documentation for OpenAI lives, and we're going to do text generation. So just go ahead and click on text generation and chat completions, as this is what we're going to do. This is essentially the chat completions API, and we're going to be building this with Node.js. So here you have Node.js, Python, or Curl. Node.js is the one we are going to use. So this is what we're essentially going to be working with. So you can go ahead and copy this. I'm going to show you how to use this in an actual project. So first up, let's get up our code editors. I'm using WebStorm. So if you're using WebStorm, then great. Or if not, please go ahead and use your code editor of choice. And I'm just going to create a new project. This project is, let's go ahead and call it OpenAI Chat Completions Demo. Okay, and you can start off with this being an empty project like so. I'm going to go ahead, however, and make sure this is a React project because we're eventually want to build out a front end for this too. So in order to do this, let's just type that again. So OpenAI Chat Completions Demo. We're essentially using this command right here. So don't worry if you're not using WebStorm. This is the equivalent of me getting on my terminal. I'm just going to make this bigger so you can see. Then navigating to a directory of my choice. So for example, WebStorm projects, and using npx space create React app, or one word, followed by whatever you want to call this. So you can call it this if you want to be this exact same as me. I'm not doing it this way, okay? So either click enter here or on WebStorm. Just make sure React is selected. Make sure you've named this somewhere. Make sure the location is correct. And just go ahead and click create. And this will spin up a React project for you with all the configuration and everything that you're going to need in order to build out a backend and a front end. So great, that's just going to do its thing. And when it's done, we'll be ready to continue. Okay, great. So that is now done. And if you look in here, you'll see all the files and configuration that you're going to need for this project. However, I'm just going to delete some stuff because we're literally just going to doing the very basics. So let's delete the app CSS file. I'm just going to delete that. Okay, delete anyway. And let's delete the app test file as well. So delete that one. And then I'm going to delete these three as well. So the logo, web report, vitals, and setup tests. Go ahead and delete those two. Okay, delete anyway. So all you should have in your source directory is the app.js file, which at the moment, let's just get rid of this for now, looks like this. However, we don't need to import those anymore. And in fact, we don't need anything from here. Let's just return a div like so. Okay, so this is all you're going to have. And because I just prefer functional expressions, I'm just going to change this to be like so. So there we go. This is all you should have in your app.js file and nothing in your index.css file. And in here, let's just delete that as we are not doing any reporting of web vitals. We do have an index.css, but let's just get rid of it because we don't need it either. I'm just getting rid of the semicolons as well. So in fact, we can get rid of this index.css file because I'm not going to need it for this tutorial. You can re-add it if you want to add styling later. So actually this makes it simpler. In our source directory, we just have the app.js file and we just have the index.js file. Great, so with this setup and this package JSON, so here you'll see all the packages we are using and their versions. If you're watching this in the future and something doesn't work, it could be down to the version we are using. And in that case, just change it to whatever this is here. So for example, like this, and just do npmi again to reinstall those packages. But I'm not going to do that because I'm happy with them for now. So great. So let's actually start off with building our backend first. So on the same level as package.json, if you want to click package.json, that's cool. Just create a new file and call it the index.js file, or if you might get confused, call it server.js. Okay, so now we have the server.js file here, and we're just going to go and get all this code. So copy it and paste it in like so. Okay, so that's all we have done. In fact, we can move that up. And again, I'm just going to get rid of the semicolons. Let's just minimize this. And great. So the only thing you really need to get this going is your API key. So you need to stick it in here, and API key is how you need to write it. And then you can stick it in here simply by going to your documentation. So here I am, I've of course signed up, and I can get my API keys from here. So I'm just going to create a new one. Let's go with my demo, create key. Okay, and copy it. Of course, that is done. You can delete it if you don't want anymore. As you can see, I've got a bunch of old ones here. And now let's go back to the chat completions API. But before that, we're going to you can stick it in here if you're just doing this for fun. But, if you're going to push this onto GitHub, then don't do it this way. You need to use process env, and then you can call this whatever you want. So you can call it, let's go OpenAI API key. And then you're going to create a .env file, so new file on the same level as server.js.env. And you're just going to paste that in here like so. But of course, you need to use this. So copy this, stick it here, and say that that equals that. Okay, so there we go. There's where the .env file lives on the same level as server.js. It's a secret file. And in order to pick this up, so OpenAI API key, we need to use process env, but this won't work unless you actually import a certain package, and that is the .env package. So make sure you're in the project and do npi.env, and this will essentially allow you to read secrets from this file. Okay, as long as you put process env in front. And of course, you need to actually use this in here. So we're going to do require.env.config. That's just from the documentation. And actually, this won't work. We need to change this. So const OpenAI equals, and then we're going to require the package. So we had to change that from the documentation that we saw on OpenAI. Okay, so great. This is now looking good. Now I can run this. And in order to run this, I need to write a script. So this is going to be to start my front end. So I'm just going to change this to say front end. I'm going to make this bigger for you. And then we're also going to write a script to start the back end. So this is my script start back end. And what we're going to do is listen out for constant changes. So nodemon. Nodemon is another package we're going to have to install. And we're going to listen out for constant changes on the server.js file. Okay, great. So now let's install nodemon. Nodemon. Okay, once again, you'll see it show up here. You've already seen .env show up along with its version, and now nodemon as well along with its version. Again, look at these versions. They're important because if something doesn't work, it could be down to the version you are using. So great. Another package that we're going to have to install is, of course, the OpenAI package. So let's do it, npm I OpenAI, and hit enter. Okay? And once that is done, once again, that will show up here along with its version. We'll then use this script because we have nodemon installed. So npm run start backend. Okay, that's all I've done, npm run start backend. And it's now listening out to constant changes on my server.js file, which is this. And great, you will see that this is working, okay? I am getting a message back. Essentially what we have done is fed in these messages. So we have the message rule system, you are a helpful assistant. So we're telling OpenAI to act like a helpful assistant. We're then also saying who won the World Series. So we're acting like the user now. And then we're pretending the assistant replied back, the Los Angeles Dodgers won the World Series in 2020. And then we asked again, where was it played? So that's what we're sending to OpenAI. We've used chat completions in order to create a chat. Okay, so essentially we've used OpenAI, we've passed in our OpenAI key, we've created the const OpenAI, and now that we have it, we can use all the wonderful methods and properties that come with it, including chat completions create. So this method will essentially create the chat, and we have fed it an object. Okay, this is the object. The object has messages, which is an array of messages, and also has the model that we define here. We can change this to GPT-4 or anything if we want. And then we essentially get the response, which is completion. The object has choices, and we go into the first one, and that is essentially what comes back to us in the terminal. Okay, so that is the object that comes back. It's got an index, got a message, which is from the assistant, which is defined here by role assistant, and the content. So the assistant replies, the 2020 World Series was played at Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas. Okay, so really easy. That is a very basic example. Hopefully this is working. If you got error messages like insufficient quota, it means you might have to add credits to your OpenAI account. Great. So again, this is super basic, but now you might be asking me, cool, but I don't want to type stuff out here. I want to have an input on the front end where people can ask questions too, and that gets sent over to the back end. So let's do it. I'm going to show you how. So first off, there's a few things we need to do. In the backend, we actually need to find a port because we're now going to run this on a port. So I'm going to define the port as port 8000. I'm also going to require the package express. So we're going to have to install that. And once we have the package express and we've saved it on the const express, we're going to get express and release all of its wonderfulness. So here we are releasing it into another const called app. So now app stores all of the methods and properties that come with Express, one of them being app use, which will allow us to essentially pass JSON from the front end. Okay, great. And another one is app use cause, which will get rid of any cause error messages that you might come across. So cool. Let's also define cause up here. So const cause require the package cause. And wonderful. Let's just move this up here as well. Keep those down there and move that up here too. And now let's install Express and Cause. So let's get this up again. I'm going to open up a new tab to make sure that this one is running still and do npm I Express and Cause as well. So those two dependencies will now be added into here. Okay, great. There we are. There's Cause and Express. Let's move on. I'm just going to minimize this for now. This is still running. This is looking good. So we now need to write a route because we're going to send stuff from the front end to the back end if it reaches a certain endpoint. So for those of you that know Express, this is going to be a great refresher. However, before that, we also need to listen out for any changes. Okay, I'm going to listen out here. So app listen. Listen is another thing that comes with Express. We pass through the port, which is port 8000, and then a function here. And then it's just going to console log out listening on port and then the port name. Okay, and this just means that we get a little message showing up here just to know that everything is working. Of course, this is called this again. Maybe let's get rid of that for now. Okay, so now let's actually write a endpoint. This is going to be a post endpoint. Now you can define this as whatever you wish. I'm going to go ahead and maybe call this completion. Okay. And there's going to be an async function that has a request and a response. And we're essentially going to send text with the body of the request. So this is going to be with the request, like I said. So maybe let's get the text from there, from the request body text. So I'm going to show you this in a bit. And then all I'm really going to do is get all of this, okay, and stick it in here, as well as the console log. And I'm going to delete this function and stick that there. We need to define OpenAI up here, however, so we can do so there. I think that is fine. So this is our whole piece of code. So essentially, if we visit this endpoint, what we're going to do is essentially get the text that we attach to the body And then instead of writing all of this, yes, we can pre-program it with telling it it's a helpful assistant, but we don't really need this. We can just have the user and the content and then replace the text here. And let's not feed in anything else. Okay, so here my array finishes. Let's get rid of those 2 items. So that is something you can do if you just want to pass through one message. Okay, cool. So this is essentially everything here. I'm just going to get rid of this curly brace as we don't really need it. Just trying to get all the code in one place for you. Okay, so there we go. That's really it. And those are the packages that we use for this backend. Please pause here if you need to copy anything in more detail. So now let's go back here. And of course, we need to start the front end, right? Because in the package, we actually wrote a start script for the front end. So let's copy that. And then this is running here. So don't touch the back end. Let's go to this tab. I'm just going to clear this and do npm run start front end, making sure you are still in the project OpenAI chat completions demo. I hit enter. Okay, so that should open up automatically on localhost 3000. Of course, there won't be anything in here because we deleted everything. But if we inspect this, this will help us for now. So this is going to be, like I said, super basic. Let's just get rid of this for now. Let's get rid of the index.js and let's go back to the app. All I'm going to do here is simply have an input and a button to submit whatever we wrote in here. And then maybe let's get a response back. Okay, so we can have a response here as well. We're going to have to import a few things. So we're going to import use state, import use state from React so that we can set some state in this component. And the state we're going to set is the text. So we're going to use state and set the text. So whatever this is here, the original thing that we're setting it as is this empty string. And if we want to change it, we're going to use set text. Okay. So once again, use state. We are passing an empty string, which means this value gets assigned here. And if we want to change the value of this, we use set text. So we want to do that essentially whenever we type, right? So on the input, I'm going to do on change, just like so. I'm going to pass through an event, and then we're going to do set text e target value of the input. Cool. So that's kind of really it. If I do console log text, make sure that has a parenthesis there, and go back here. If I start typing here, so hello, let's get up our console log, hello, and then delete. It just shows us what that text is. So it's updating the whole time. Cool. Just going to get rid of that for now. So we're saving the text, awesome. However, we actually want to save that text and send it over on the submit click. Okay, so let's write on click, and then what do we want to happen? Well, we're going to get the completion if we click on this. Okay, so let's define get completion. Maybe let's get rid of that for now. Const get completion. So we're just writing a function, and we're going to essentially make a post request. So we're going to await fetch. And then we're going to fetch to localhost 8000 because that's where our backend is. Okay, so localhost 8000. If you want to copy that to be sure, there it is. And then we're going to put in the endpoint that we wrote here. Okay, because that's essentially where we wanted to make a post request to, along with some stuff, right? Along with a body, because we want to send over the text from the front end to the back end. So the method of this, as we said, is a post method, and as the body, well, we're going to use JSON stringify, and we can just send over the text like so. Okay, making sure it's in an object because we're going to use dot notation to get it. So essentially request.body.text. So you can write it like this, or you can write it like this if that helps you, but writing just text is a short form of this. Just keep that in mind. So now let's save the response of this. Okay, and because we're using await here, we need to make sure that we say this is an async function. Don't need that comma. What we do also need, however, is headers. So content type application JSON, that is correct. You can even put it on one line if you wish. Okay, and once that's done its thing, we're going to essentially await the response JSON. But yes, this is an async function. That's why we need the await keyword. And let's save this as maybe data. And for now, I'm just going to console log the data. Okay, so cool. Once again, we are essentially making a post request to this endpoint, which we have defined here. And then we are also sending over the text with the body. We've wrapped it in JSON stringify. Okay, we have to make sure to use express JSON as well. And then we are essentially getting the request body text from them. Okay, cool. So let's give it a go. In fact, let's go back here. And what should we ask it? What day is it? Submit. And then we can wait. And then we look in the server and it says, today is Tuesday, how can I assist you? So that is good. It is being console logged out. One thing we also need to do is just send it over now to the front end. So for this, I'm going to use res send. And then again, we're just going to get that and send it to the front end. Okay, because we're expecting a response here so that we can console log it in the front end. So let's try again. So what day is it? Submit. And great. So now this is data. We get a whole object, but from the object we need the message. So .message .content so that we can get today as Saturday. So let's do it. I'm going to actually set it to a response up here. Let's just minimize this. Const response, set response. We can use an empty string to start, but then I'm going to use set response in order to get the data. And like I said, we need to go into the object to get the message.content. So message.content. And then we can show the response in here. So curly braces response. Okay, wonderful. So what day is it? Question mark. And as a helpful assistant, it gets back today as Friday. So we've done it. We made a super basic app, no styling. I've just shown you how to work with the API to essentially get stuff from the front end to the back end. What I would really suggest, however, is, I've obviously gone ahead and used what I know about the object in order to get all of this back. But it could be a nice thing to, just console log out the whole completion, for example, and just see what you get back. So for example, what day is it? Submit. And then you will see the whole object come back. So here's the whole object, the whole completion object. And as you can see, it's got a lot of information, but what we did was go into choices, which is an array. And then we got the first item from it, okay, which got the whole thing, and send this over to the front end. We could have actually gone a step further and did choices.message, and it would have just sent back the message. So that is totally up to you, however you want to do it. I'm just going to put this back as it was for now. Okay, great. So once again, this is the whole piece of code that you need. I would also suggest listening out to the port. And here is what we imported into this project, as well as used some middleware, and then also passed through our OpenAI API key. Great. And for the app, this is again very simple. We don't need this console log here anymore. Once again, we've imported useState from React. We set state of the text and the response, and then we wrote a function to get the completion, in which we actually used our endpoint that we wrote and passed through a bunch of stuff, including the text that we are saving to state in order to send it to the backend. And then of course, we set the response so we can see it here. And all of that happened on click of the submit button. Wonderful. Hope this was useful, and let me know what other things you would like me to demystify in the comments below.